So I think that
Yes.
let's break it down in three dimensions. So let's brainstorm. We don't have the answers. We're just brainstorming. Let's brainstorm of what would the experience look like to hire an accountant or a bookkeeper through an Uber-like app. So we'll do it from the customer's perspective. Each of us, let's just add something. Then we'll talk about the provider. So what would this look like to the provider? And then at the end, let's talk about maybe what the platform would have to be, and then maybe we'll come up with a business model right after this. So Ryan, let's start with you. From a consumer, I'm a consumer wanting to buy bookkeeping or accounting services. Obviously, I don't have a great relationship with a current accountant, and I'm just kind of shopping it out, outsourcing it or crowdsourcing it. What are the kind of things as a consumer you will be expecting?
So I would be expecting a lot. I'd be expecting somebody that is a CPA, that is certified. Are we not using QuickBooks here, or are we just talking general?
No, don't use QuickBooks. This is an international platform.
Phenomenon.
So it could be anything, right?
Here's a very important one. I want somebody. I want to be able to change the person if I'm not satisfied. And I also want to verify that they're going to be with me indefinitely and not just today or now for this one trip or this one service that I need. So I want one dedicated person that will support me. And if I don't like them, I want to be able to switch. Very similar to if you think that your ride is too far away, you can cancel it and request a new one.
I don't necessarily think so, because first of all, as a consumer, I don't really care if it's your CPA or not. I just wanted to know that you can do this job. As in credential, just like, if we take an Uber example, I don't care if you have class, A, B, C, D, or whatever classifications you have. I just want to know that you can drive in a safe manner. And then in terms of this consistency, I don't necessarily think consumers are good really care that's the same person helping me every single time. Because if you did, you'd have your own chauffeur and you'd be willing to pay for that. Whereas Uber is like, I don't care who it is, just get me there. And I guess, if this service were to come out, it'd be like, I don't care who is on the other line. I just want to solve this problem. I just want this month done, or I want some advice on how to solve this problem.
My rebuttal to that would be, would you rather have somebody that is 17 years old that just got their license, or somebody that's had their license for 20 plus years? And do you want somebody that's familiar with the area so they can get to point A, from point A to point B quickly, as opposed to somebody that's kind of brand new to the area and, they're not really sure the best.
So the length of experience doesn't really indicate expertise. You can be 20 years in industry and still be terrible at your job, or come out of school and be really, really intelligent and get the job done. So I would say length of service is not the best indicator of competency. And in terms of familiarity with area, well, that's what the app's for, right? You don't need familiarity at all to be able to drive from point A to B because of the GPS. So, if that software can provide that same level of guidance, then maybe it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, if the rating system is a component in all of this, then the rating systems would dictate, if somebody just got their license and signed up for this service, they wouldn't have any ratings yet. So if you look at that, you might be reluctant to, be their guinea pig, so to speak.
Can I add something to that? So Ryan, I'm actually not against you or with you. I'm just adding some color commentary in this one. So I think that when people think about the driver that they want, or this is going to be a good driver or a bad driver, they look at the ratings as the rate, like number of stars, and also number of reviews. Mm-hmm. And number of reviews depicts experience. If the model forced one driver to one user all the time, the volume of reviews would be much lower. Does that make sense?
Right.
So is this rotation of people, like serving many, many people, not having the same person over and over, which might drive the volume in terms of the stars, right? and then potentially give you that review, that coveted high volume, high rating review they're looking for. So I'm just kind of adding some commentary to the concept of having the same person over and over. But Ryan also added one more thing. Like Ryan added one thing that I really love. He says, "I like to have the let me see. I like to have the same person over and over, but I like to quickly switch if I'm unhappy, and I don't want to be the one firing them. I just want to press a button and not have to. But that friction is a big deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't fire their accountants because they don't want to have the conversation. Think about it.
Yeah.
So Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that's a great idea. So yeah, so Ryan, you're approaching it as like what I would like. I'm trying to relate this back to what Uber allows us to do or Lyft allows us to do. So like on Uber, I don't remember that I've even had the opportunity to choose the driver. The driver chooses me actually. And then if I want to cancel the ride, I can click cancel, but I don't even think an option is I click cancel because the reviews suck. I think it's just literally, if I cancel, I think it's for most riders who are new to the platform, they actually get dinged on their own review as a writer. So if you think about the same thing, you yourself as an entrepreneur or a user of the platform would actually have a review yourself. So the QB Live person would be able to see, do I even want to accept this writer or accept this entrepreneur to do their books, which would be very interesting. That would be very interesting. Like, do I want to accept the call from this person? But yeah, so last time I used Uber, I mean, I use it a lot, especially when I'm traveling. I don't remember ever being able to choose a driver. And sometimes I wish I could, because the moment, and I should have gone back to the app and looked, because I hate it when the app doesn't tell you if the car smells like smoke. And I've jumped into that and I go, I did not want to smell like smoke at the end of this ride, nor smell smoke for the next 15 minutes or 30 minutes.
How would you know? How would you know, Mike? Okay, so how will we solve that problem of not smelling like smoke?
Well, the moment that I see the car and I step in and I get a whiff, I should be able to say, I'm going to get out. This car smells like smoke, and I'm going to ding you for not sharing that on the app.
Okay.
So the same thing with this experience. I want to be able to say, hey, this accountant you gave that I got through this experience was really mean to me or rude to me. And I'm going to put that in a review, or I'm going to post that immediately and be able to end the call and immediately get another bookkeeper.
I think that's really interesting. I think this is probably moving from a different perspective, but the fact that you can rate your customer, I think is really interesting, because there are some really rude customers out there, and the accounting community, that, the servers should be able to know, like, oh, this guy is the pain, I should be careful, right? I think that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, I think there would be a higher volume of negative reviews when accounting practitioners are rating business owners as opposed to just regular, citizens that are trying to get from point A to point B. Business owners, you're just going to find a bigger, pool of unwanted customers. But
Ryan, let's talk about what an Uber accounting wouldn't be for those customers that are looking to build a relationship with an accountant. Right. It's like TaskRabbit. I'm trying to get a job done.
Right.
That's right.
Now we go to all the conferences and we're brainwashed by all the thought leaders and all that stuff. So the concept of relationship and advisory, it's in top of our mind. And sometimes we project that upon our customers and we think that's what our customers want. And in the long run, they do. In their hearts, they do. But in the immediacy, we really don't. I was just in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. I was trying to get to the improv show and back to the hotel. I wasn't really thinking about anything else beyond that. And if Uber gets into this business, or an Uber type of company it is, I don't think it's going to be about relationships. And the other part, I think Mike was talking about being rude or not being rude. We're also making the assumption that when you hire this accountant through Uber, will you even have a conversation with that person? Because we're assuming that this is going to happen. But could we hire someone that we just give them access to QBO? We send a list of what we need. They reply back to the same app and say, what about this? What about this? What's line A, line B?
Oh, wow.
They get it done. And you don't even have to talk to the person, because there's going to be a group of customers, I assume, that are not going to want to talk to their accountant or their provider.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it, because they don't have a relationship with you anyway. So why do they even want to talk to you? Now, imagine you're a brilliant accountant and you barely speak English. That's even a worse problem, right? But think about it. You could be a brilliant accountant, right? The person that reconciles, solves the problem, everything, right? Gets the books beautiful, tax return, everything, but can't communicate with the person via voice, but could essentially do it via text. Wouldn't you want to continue working with a provider? You know, so we have to also think about how the customer's expectations are going to change when this Uber accounting comes out. And also, let me note something. Michael, you lost. We had a bet who would mention QuickBooks Live first. And, and Michael subconsciously mentioned QuickBooks Live.
Did I say that? I don't remember.
You did say it.
You don't, Michael?
I don't remember saying it at all.
Oh my gosh. All three of us were like smirking at you. I can't believe you just said that.
So Bob, what do you think about this concept of, does someone hire an accountant through Uber? Do they want to talk to the person? Like, what do you think the customer, again, what is the customer expecting?
It's interesting. Uber, I read somewhere that Uber just came out with an option that you can select how talkative you want your driver to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Like, apparently you can pay a premium and say, I want a quiet ride. And you have to pay a premium for that.
Premium for a quiet ride?
Kidding me? And I thought, what a great idea! I would choose that every time when I take an Uber. But why
you're
not?
creating new profit centers every day.
There you go. I mean, why not in accounting history? Like, how talkative do you want to be with your accountant? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, and then match it up with the appropriate level of accountant. Like you said, Hector, there are some really amazing minds that are just that have terrible people skills, and that's. And before, maybe they were at a disadvantage, whereas in this case, they're on equal playing field, and the software can play matchmaker between the right personalities. And I think
what about questions? What about questions, Bob? I ask my customers a shitload of questions. I'm like a 3-year-old. Why?
Because you can't read their mind, Hector.
Yeah,
it's a skill.
But I've had
pay a premium for that.
But I have people saying, "Why are you asking me so many questions? I just need you to do my tax return."
Right.
That's right.
And as much as I'll try to re-educate that person, I can send them to an accounting re-education camp, and they still don't want me to ask them that many questions.
That's right.
Right. So could that be an option where you say, I want an accountant that won't ask questions?
Yeah. I don't think that should be an option. I want an accountant that doesn't ask me any questions.
Right. That could lead to some other problems, of course. But are you looking for an accountant that digs deep or doesn't dig?
Yeah. Right.
Are you looking for an accountant that questions your business model or your profit, or not? Are you looking for an accountant that suggests things beyond the work that they're doing?
Well, you see, I would say that's more, again, going back to Uber, like the Uber X versus Uber X kind of comparison, and right? Like, do you want a limo or do you want to, right? Or do you want to ride share? Like, do you want to have a group session here? Let me file 4 of your taxes at once.
Yeah, could you imagine like a group bookkeeping session or a group?
Like why not? It's like a mastermind group, right?
Why not, Michael? What if
exactly.
What if one of the options wasn't do my books or do my taxes? What if it's train me and quit?
Yeah. Or right? it could be like, do you want to join a 1040 easy session or a Schedule C session? It's just your Schedule C, walk step-by-step schedule. Yeah, I mean, that would be a very interesting
group tax planning, right? Because it's all generic, it's all based on
There you go. Yeah, and if you want your limo service and get into that, we can even say get into that advisory service, right? Minimum an hour charge.
Right.
It's got minimum take that long, but you're willing to pay for that, and you can give each other a rating afterwards. I think that's pretty crazy.
And how much luggage you bring in, right? How much luggage that little thing? How much luggage can you fit in the car? How much luggage are you bringing? How many phones are you bringing? How many things? Yeah, that's really
and maybe in that case, that's where Ryan's idea of building that relationship, because that really it's at the advisory level that the relationship starts to matter. I think maybe that could be an option at that higher level, but
Ryan, anything else in the customer level so we can move to the provider level? Anything else you can think of?
No, I just want to expand on what you guys, on what we've been talking about for the last 8 minutes or so. There's definitely a clear difference between somebody that needs a tax professional and somebody that's requesting, bookkeeping or advisory services. I hate using advisory but that's a different story. But I think if somebody's looking for, just getting their tax return prepared, then I don't think it's that hard to debate whether they want somebody that's talkative or not talkative, or they just want somebody to get the job done. With bookkeeping, from my experience, I would say safely that 95% of business owners that I've dealt with want to talk, and they want to be heard. And I don't think that there would be any room for somebody that is that doesn't wish to talk to the client for them to grow or be successful. I think that is a critical component if this service was available. And I think that's one of the things that something that rhymes with QuickBooks Hive would fail at if they don't provide this relationship component with the client, because I think that they could grow very frustrated if they just have all these different people reconciling bank accounts, and somebody might reconcile a credit card sub account differently than the last person, and there's no consistency.
Ryan, I do have a counter argument to that. Okay. The big broker companies, Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab, they're all losing business of the yin yang, and they're losing it to all this, all these new fintechs, and all these new fintechs going to Betterment and Stash or whatever these companies are called. They're not talking to brokers.
No,
they're logging in, they're reading something, they're clicking a couple of buttons, looking at a couple of graphs, and they're doing all the investments themselves. So what you are calling to be the truth today, which is 90% of customers want to talk, that can systematically change. Ryan, if we had the same podcast, the same thing 15 years ago, and the idea was this abstract concept of having accounting on the cloud, the Ryan Balfield 15 years ago would be saying 90% of my customers don't want my data on the cloud. Look at how that has changed in 15 years.
But Hector, that's where I'd say, and the fintech and non-fintech, like, they can coexist, because there are customers, and in this case, Ryan's customer base wants to have that relationship, and there's always going to be a place for that, right? Like, it's never 100% one or the other. And so you track the people that love that, and that's
the
great.
Nature of the relationship changes. I'm going to give you an example, Bob. I don't know anything about you, but I'm going to make a prediction. You have worked with an attorney in the last 5 years a few times, yes or no?
Yes, and I hate every one of them.
No, okay, but Bob, has this been you going to the big office with the big mahogany desks, or has it been like online, email, back and forth? Like, has your lawyer relationship become techie and quick and express, just like the Times? And the answer is probably yes.
Yes. Sorry, I should say the work has been all remote, but the level of relationship is like almost non-existent. But then again, like, but really care.
But relationships is an abstract concept. You can have a relationship with someone via a chat in an app. Okay, how many people are meeting online in all these apps, and they get married afterwards? People, no, I'm serious. People,
it's true. It's true.
People can build deep relationships electronically. Usually they meet at least once. I think people like to see the other person's face at least once, even if it's Zoom. But I have so many clients that I don't even know what they look like, because I do remote work and I don't use Zoom video for the most part. I just use TeamViewer. I have clients that I've literally worked with for like 7 years, and I have no idea what they look like. Zero, no idea. They know me because of YouTube, but I don't know what they look like. And I love the person. I hear their voice and I recognize them. Right? He texts me through WhatsApp. He adores my work. He pays on time. You can build deep relationships with someone without having what we picture in our head what a relationship is. So I'm not discounted that we are going to have relationships. I'm just saying the nature of a relationship could fundamentally change. That's just what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think it's interesting. We're not used to that I think a lot of people are not used to that in our profession yet, but it will continue to be more and more like that. And that, you know, I think that that's a lot of disruption in that case. So have we moved on to the provider? Are we still on the provider side? We're still on that?
No. Let's move to the provider. We haven't talked about.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about provider. So what would you expect as a provider? Well, I think we brought that up earlier. I would want the ability to rate who I'm working with, put a review. And you know what's funny? I don't know if you have been tempted by this, but right now, if you have a customer that doesn't pay you, is mean to your staff, the most recourse you can get is fire them or potentially even, you know, sue them. But I don't know if any of us have ever left our customer a bad review on their business website, right? Or on their Google Maps location. And I don't even know if that's legal, if you're allowed to do that, but it's not something that's fun. It's kind of funny. We've kind of not, we have the reverse where only the customer is allowed to leave the review, but the service provider or the person providing the product is actually not allowed to leave a review. We can respond. The common thing is to respond to reviews, but you can't actually leave one, which is very interesting why that's the case. If I were to challenge that aspect, why is that the case? That's really interesting. Why can't you, as a service provider, say, look, this person was not great to deal with, and I would not recommend anybody else deal with this person, right? That would be very interesting, since they could say the same thing back to you.
That would be interesting for Yelp, because
yeah, that would be very interesting. I think we lost Hector.
That's a great free shot of Hector, though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Free shot, yeah,
that's funny.
Hector, what'd you say? You a Yelp? That would be interesting.
No, I was saying that would be interesting in Yelp, because there are some Yelpers that all they do is leave bad reviews. So if the restaurants could track the Yelper and give that Yelper a bad review and say, look, this guy is really anal. He's asking for a lot of things. Like, there's one Yelper that my client was telling me, there's one Yelper that all he does, it goes into restaurants and checks if they are ADA compliant, like with a wheelchair accessible. And he always dings the restaurant, 1-star review saying non-ADA compliant, like the toilet paper height or the ramp to get into the restaurant. That's all he does. Wow. And he's famous in South Florida for it. He has brought lawsuits to restaurants. Like, they fear this guy. Wow. It's a guy in a wheelchair that all he does is go to restaurants and give him a hard time for the handicap accessible ramps and all that stuff. So like a person like that, which, by the way, of course, he's doing a great service to the rest of the handicapped people by getting all these customers compliant. But the restaurant should be able to say, hey, by the way, this person is a chronic bad reviewer, you know, so take that person's comments with a grain of salt. And if there's enough service providers out there, you know, maybe they can get those reviews. They get them annulled, or people ignore them. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah. What do you think, Ryan? What else would you expect as a service provider in this experience if you're on the providing side, on the Uber experience?
Yeah, I would think that it would be cool if I was able to just click a button and pass that client down the list to somebody else.
So decline it. Decline the job, basically, you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Decline the job. Correct.
Now, let me ask you a question, Ryan. What are the indicators that would lead you to decline that job? Because there's not a lot of information when the job pops up. Like, what? Just give us a quick high-level things. What would the customer have told you, or what have you learned about that job that will drive you to decline it?
I guess it all depends. I can't come up with an example off the top of my head, but I would think, maybe
tell me what type of jobs you decline, and that will give us an idea. What are the type of jobs that you say no to immediately?
Trust accounting.
So it's a niche industry specialty type of thing.
Yeah, but I would think that if there was something in place here, then, somewhere on your profile, you would indicate whether you want to deal with law firms or not. So that wouldn't even get to that point.
Correct.
But maybe we've all seen this. You could you can have an engagement or onboard a new client that has, a very simple LLC, just started, one bank account, and then a half hour into the conversation, they actually have, three other holding accounts, and they're using their personal credit card and they're commingling funds. And, it just turns out to be an absolute nightmare.
So we taken the job.
Yeah.
We looked into it. You said 30 minutes, but it could be longer. It could be shorter. And at that point, we realized that what their expectations and the scope is not there, and you can just turn it back and send it back into the world. Now, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think that would do to the consumers that are sitting there and explaining their problems to 2-3 providers? You think they would stop using that app, saying, this is not working for me. People are declining me.
Yeah, I think it would be hard for the app to rebound from that, because the consumer already has, a set price in mind that they thought they were going to get service for that particular rate. Now, if they get kicked back into the queue because they have a more complex situation, then if that's notated on their account, then they're going to have to pay a higher rate in order to get the level of service that they need. So it could be a huge sticker shock for them, because they already have that one price embedded. Just like any quote you get, if you get a quote from a landscaper for $1,000, and then they come out and they say, oh, actually, there's a slope in your yard, and blah blah blah, it's actually going to be 3,500, and you're probably not likely to proceed, and you might just go with a brand new, go out and get brand new estimates from other companies or other services.
Bob, what about you? What do you think about that concept of the scope and taking the job?
Yeah,
the job?
I think that you raised a really interesting point. Before I get there, though, there's a few things that we had discussed that I just want to summarize. The rating thing was important. The matching of personality, again, is super important. Being able to choose how talkative you want your client. But I think, this app is going to run into a big issue in terms of pricing and scope, because at the end of the day, it's not Uber. It's not as simple as driving from one place to the other, right? It's all these customizable requests and all these variable issues that, if this app quotes one price, then the service provider thinks it's a different price, then there could be a huge mismatch from, in terms of compensation and expectation, right? So yeah, I wonder how it's going to work. Maybe the app pays the provider by the hour and they take the risk of pricing at a certain level, or you take a percentage. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. And I think, without some sort of really amazing pricing mechanism, one side's going to get, whether it be from the customer side paying too much or from providers earning too little. So I don't know the answer to that one, but that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, it may need to take an Upwork kind of approach, where they show you the pricing that they show you the pricing that Uber does, is where they show the pricing to the driver. Do you want to pick this ride? Do you want to take this service? And then the rider gets in. But if the rider says in the midst of it, oh, I forgot to tell you about Schedule D, or I forgot to tell you about this other bank account, just like when you're in a ride, oh, I forgot, I need to stop at this other place, and it's kind of a little bit off the beaten path, you actually have to add it in the app and get charged more. So it actually does that on the fly with you. So there would be a component as a provider where I would want to know the price the general range of price I want to get paid, I would get paid, whether that's a percentage of the fee or fixed fee or whatever. And then I would want to know that I can add, this customer can add services, and I can either decline or accept in that, because the Uber driver can decline if they can't take you to where you want to go. They can say, look, I can't drive you to that other spot, so I'll stop right now and drop you off, and so that would be very interesting.
Actually, that raises a good point. Skill level,
yeah,
I've never filed a tax return before, but I know how to use this software really well. Okay, well, you better indicate that somewhere so that you don't get mashed up with a client that can do that kind of stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. So that would be really interesting. And I would expect as a provider, you can outline your pricing to match what you think you're worth, so that you're almost like you're never given the opportunity to accept something that wouldn't fit in your price range. So, or you can say, well, I'm okay seeing lower pricing for during these periods of the day. So if it's 7 o'clock at night, yeah, you know what? I'm going to be okay with getting the $20 fixed service or whatever. But if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm only going to do $1,000 or something like that. So you can almost set it.
Yeah.
So the pricing rules around it would have to be pretty sophisticated, but it's obviously possible because Uber, Lyft, these other services have done it.
Yeah.
They've done it. Surge pricing, sophisticated pricing. Yeah.
Part of pricing is also, you kind of relate to the concept of supply and demand. And I would say as a provider, I guess my expectation is there's always work, because, right? Like, I think one of the criticism with Uber is that, yeah, you're earning money while you're driving, but there are some periods where just you're available, but there's no riders, and that, not where you're just sitting around doing nothing and not earning money. So if this was going to be my career, then I need to be able to, have some sort of certainty that there's going to be enough work for me to do.
You mind if I throw a wrench at this whole thing? Are you guys familiar with how Spotify compensates their artists?
Like per song or something?
Yeah.
No. So the way it works is it's similar to YouTube, and that I could tell you
Per
about
view.
that.
Yeah.
And my sister works for Spotify, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. So the way it works is Spotify has two pools of money: the pool of money that comes from subscribers and the pool of money that comes from advertisers. So what they do is they measure playtime. So let's just deal with subscribers, similar to how Netflix works. So let's say, for example, they have $1 million of subscriber revenue for 1 month, right? Netflix or Spotify. And then let's say their agreement with the artist is 60% of that gets paid back to you. So now the pool is 600,000. So then they take, mathematically, imagine one big ass spreadsheet that has all the play times of all the songs per artist, and then proportionally distributes the 600,000 to all the artists based on playtime.
Wow.
So it's incredibly complex and interesting. So what if, right, these people would subscribe to this Uber app, and it would be, let's say, $300 a month, a flat fee, and they would get units of outcome. And then the providers can get paid proportionally based on units of outcome that they do. So I'm kind of looking at it from a platform perspective.
Yeah.
What if people didn't pay? Because we're trying to solve the problem of expectation and pricing one-on-one, dropping the client or taking them, which really adds a lot of logistical problems. But if it was the other way, all units of outcome, how would you see this differently?
Interesting.
This might be a conversation for a part 2, because that's kind of deep. But and Ryan, do you have an answer to what Bob was saying about that? Or?
No, I think that's an interesting compensation or commission model that they have. I never knew that. So
YouTube works the same way, by the way. So if I'm a monetized channel, right, and ads play in my video, there's 2 pools. There's click ads, and those give me a specific dollar amount per click ad, and then there's view ads, which is nothing to do with my channel, which is everybody's monetized channels, and all the advertising revenue gets split, half of it across all of us. Yeah. So it's basically what they're trying to solve for that one-on-one, measuring one-on-one, because that's very complicated, right? I mean, we established it here, how complex this gets, the pricing and all that stuff.
I wonder how educated the user or customer would be to pick up on the fact that, there's definitely going to always be supply, whether it be at any hour of the day. And my only concern is you're going to have people that either just enter this game and aren't as experienced, or you're going to have a lot of overseas activity that will, jump up and down for $20 or $25 an hour. But they might not have, the necessary language skills that the customer
Ryan, we can make the same requirements that Uber has, which you have to be a local, you have to be a resident, you have to have a driver's license, right? The Pro Advisor program did this, right? They kicked you off the program if you don't fax in or email them a copy of driver's license proving who you are and that you're a US based person. So we could solve this if you think that the overseas players could really throw off the numbers and have an unfair type of competition. If we wanted to systematically, we could do that. So, I mean, I would say it might be easier if we think about this from the perspective that we're only competing with other US providers, just so we don't have that big of a difference between what a person in India would do the job for versus the comparison with somebody in Arkansas versus New York, which is still pretty wide, by the way. So
or Canada.
I guess I don't know what Canada is, but I assume that someone in Toronto, right? The average person in Toronto would probably charge $30 an hour, and an average person somewhere in the middle of America where the cost of living is close to nothing, they could bring that price down, right? And I think that's the argument Ryan is making about the overseas people, correct?
Well, and I was saying the platform could even limit based on when it wants to. It could say, you as a user could say, I only want a New York-based provider, even though I'm not going to, I only want to work with somebody in New York City because I want specific New York tax law or New York things going on versus I don't care where in the country or the world they are, right? So you could even make the platform give you the decision. Like Uber, I can't ask for a Kansas driver if I'm in New York City. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But you can ask for the type of car.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can decline a driver that doesn't have so many reviews. So you do have a little bit of pick from it. But I guess some consumers will say, hell yeah, I want an overseas guy because I want to pay less, right? That could be real too.
Yeah.
And what happens if the high quality, experienced pro advisors, determine that this is not worth their time and energy, so they get rooted out, and all you're really left with are new pro advisors or beginner level experienced accounting practitioners. Then you have this watered down service. But hey, I mean,
isn't that what Uber is though? How many Uber drivers are perfect chauffeurs?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I remember clearly the first argument from the taxi side was, well, why would people want to get in a car with a stranger? They're not licensed, they're not experienced. It's less safe, but it works. I mean, they got to their destination. And so how valuable is a pro advisor certification? How valuable is a CPA license if you're just looking for basic, bookkeeping service? You might not need to be a seasoned vet. You could be just somebody that knows how to reconcile a bank account and work the bank feeds. And maybe that's good enough.
Well, guys, this has been an amazing conversation, like way more lively than I expected it to be, which is awesome. And that goes to Ryan and Bob being the people that they are. But
what'd you expect, man?
Exactly. Yeah. I was thinking we were gonna be like, well, not really. Let's keep drinking.
Bob and I bring the heat.
Yes,
whenever we come on here, there's always heat.
It's not the alcohol that's warming me up; it's the conversation that's warming me up. So how about we wrap the night up with one more comment? One more comment about platform. You can take it from platform provider or consumer. Give me kind of your final thoughts about this in regards to if Uber got into the accounting business. Bob, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Whoever is going to do it, I think is going to be incredibly smart to do it. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and they'd be dumb not to. And I think it's up to the industry to figure out, how do we want to change? Do we be a part of the ecosystem? Do we adapt? Just like the taxi industry, if you're the one holding on to 1,000 medallions, you're in real trouble. So how do you innovate in that same environment? So I don't have the answer for that. I mean, we always talk about advisory, but advisory can become a part of this platform. So I don't know. I think it's a really interesting time to be in this industry, to either be part of the wave or be left behind or lead the charge. I don't know. It's an interesting one.
That's great, Bob. How about you, Ryan?
I'm just going to continue to focus on differentiating my brand. I'm not going to worry about competitors. I'm going to continue to serve my customers at a high level. I'm not going to be intimidated by any, big giants that enter this space. I'm happy that they're doing it. I support it. I think it was inevitable. I'd much rather have QuickBooks do this than some bum ass company like Bench. So
tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. But obviously everyone's concerned with how will it affect my business. And I've been posting all over the place. Just focus on your own brand. Don't worry about competitors. If you're worried that QuickBooks Live is going to take away customers from you, then you probably have issues currently that you need to solve. So I don't really have any comments or remarks. I wish them the best of luck. And but I don't lose sleep over how it will affect my business, because if I stress out about it, then that's less time that I get to spend on, furthering my brand.
That's a good word. Hector, how about you?
I clearly lose sleep over this because it's after midnight and I'm talking about it. so that's a counter argument to that. So platform wise, what I think the most important thing is going to be trust, because a customer doesn't subscribe or pay the Uber driver. They don't subscribe or pay to the car that the Uber driver or the experience of the Uber driver. It's to Uber. What they are trusting is the platform, right? And then the Uber driver is the same thing. They're driving a stranger around in a country full of crazy people, right? They're driving a stranger around, also trusting the platform, trusting the review system, trusting the payment system. They also trust that they're going to get paid. They're literally using their resources, logging a human being around and not receiving any money in the interim. So they're trusting the platform to pay them. So I think trust is the overarching concept that the platform needs to endure. The secondary concept to this, I think, is quality of work from the use. So the way Uber makes sure that there's quality is they kick off bad drivers of the platform, right? Bad reviews, they kick them off. Like Ryan is saying, some bum ass person that's just started, the platform needs to have the ability to bump them off or to lower them from the priority list. Uber also checks people's cars. And I think they have other Uber drivers check the cars or send pictures. I mean, there's some sort of quality control. So I think the platform needs to do some sort of certification, training, verification, continuous training and verification, and in one way, shape, or form to be able to spot check in a meta level the quality of the work. And I know that's kind of complicated, but if you think about it, when you log into QuickBooks Online, you have this overview button now that tells you how many accounts are unreconciled and how many transactions have a negative account and how many, you've seen that, right? Mm-hmm. So what if the platform could, in a meta level, read somebody's, let's say, QuickBooks Online file before they work with the person, and then using some like really smart KPIs, see the work after, and somehow be able to determine how, obviously they can't tell judgment, right? That accountant had good judgment or bad judgment. That's impossible. But they could know, okay, they finished their bank transactions, or they put vendors in all the payees, or they don't have negative balances, or everything's reconciled, or there is a very low variance between the categories and the market average, of the expenditures. I mean, obviously it's complicated, but if there was some systematic way to provide quality, that would increase the trust in both the user and the provider to keep continuing to the platform to keep having good providers.
Good point.
That's great. And there are just two quick thoughts to end this in regards to the platform. I keep going back to the thinking, our firms are the taxi companies, and there's an Uber coming. Mm-hmm. Our firms are the taxi companies. And so the war isn't for customers. That's a side effect. The actual war is for talent. The actual war is for talent. The taxi companies are hurting not because customers stopped using them. It's because drivers stopped driving for them. That's the area where we have to innovate for our firms. It's actually not around the customers in my mind. You can't serve customers without drivers. We can't serve customers without employees, without accountants or bookkeepers working for us. That's the primary battle. And then the second or last one is, we're learning through the whole economics around this now that Uber, Lyft, and everything has been around long enough. Yes, there's value for the customer. There's some value for the driver, but the platform wins out. At the end of the day, the platform is the winner. So creating a platform is one of the best economic models for your business if you can be that player. And it's very hard. Only 1 in a billion people do it, right? Airbnb, Uber, you name them. They've come out and done the platform play, and our friends at Intuit have created the platform play. They went intentionally in it, and they created the largest platform play. And so that would be an interesting kind of another conversation is, how could one of our firms become a platform play? What would that look like for your firm to switch your model and become a platform play? This is awesome, guys. This is great.
Michael, that was good. Those are two great points.
That was amazing, Michael.
Yeah.
And to your point, I'm going to recommend the book. It's called Tomorrow 3.0 by Michael Munger. And it talks exactly about that, about the sharing economy, about platforms, and the reduction of friction and transaction costs, how that's going to win tomorrow's economy. So read that book if you like this conversation. It's fantastic. Tomorrow 3.0 by Michael Munger.
That's great. Well, thank you guys. Have a great night and great Memorial weekend. And have a great weekend, Bob, up in Canada as well. We'll talk soon.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.